My name is David Hart. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for Build Up. The American dream is increasingly becoming out of reach for many people, and especially more so for those that are opportunity youth. Um, the, the cost of housing, the cost of college, it is really making things uncertain for young people, and that's exactly what Build Up is looking to solve and alleviate. Meet Euphrates. This is Euphrates. He is 19 years old and a recent graduate of Build Up. And Euphrates was just as I described. And we helped this young man to figure out his pathway. He really loved working with his hands. And we set him up with a job at the Carpenters Union after his internship. And now, 2 years later, Euphrates, we have helped to become a young homeowner. So, 2 weeks ago, Euphrates actually just closed on a house. And he not only purchased his house, but he has equity in his house to start out with. And so, this is Euphrates in front of his home. But what we're really looking to tell you about is not just about Euphrates' story, because this story is emblematic of many others. In fact, Euphrates closed with a cohort of three other homeowners, and we will increase this cohort size going forward. So let me tell you a little bit more about Build Up. Next slide, please. So Build Up is an education plus model. And what we do is we work at the intersection of three major sectors. We work at the intersection of education, workforce development, and affordable housing. So, with regard to our School Plus model, we take students and we provide them with a quality education. And we really provide them with a college education, an education that can provide them with the pathway to college or to go into career. Once they've gained some foundational basics, both in math, science, English, history, but also in the trades, we then place them into internships. And that those career connected experiences where they actually go out on site and work for employers is very pivotal. They get paid for those internships and we teach them financial literacy. And then they get to figure out what pathway do they actually want to go down. And then once they graduate, we continue to support them in their chosen path. And if they opt into it, we support them to become affordable homeowners with equity in their homes. So that's our model in a nutshell. And that's what we've been working with this group. Next slide.
Awesome. Thanks, David. The Society for Human Resource Management finds that the cost of replacing an employee leads to losses in productivity and management time that reach 90% to 200% of annual wages. This is an incredible cost for businesses, but what if it didn't have to be this way? This is exactly where BuildUp comes in. Our solution is to create a subsidiary temp agency that matches BuildUp graduate students to local organizations. By utilizing their existing trade school curriculum and tracking of attendance, motivation, and baseline skills, BuildUp is able to vet qualified students to fill these vacancies and provide employers with a stable flow of qualified individuals. First, our target market focuses on trade employers who need entry-level workers. Across the United States, the construction industry alone needs about 439,000 new workers annually, highlighting a significant labor shortage. Within our serviceable market of Texas and Alabama, there are tens of thousands of construction and trade companies, representing a large pool of potential employers seeking entry-level talent. However, our immediate focus is much smaller and more realistic. We start with local employer partners near our training programs. In Birmingham, Selma, and Brownsville, we estimate around 400 to 500 employers that regularly hire entry-level trade workers, allowing us to build an initial pipeline of 20 to 40 employer partnerships. So how would BuildUp enter this market? The first phase would be to leverage their existing network of corporate partners and place their recent graduates into entry-level trade jobs. After a strong performance in the role, we hope to expand by increasing the number of graduates entering this workforce pipeline and expand partnerships with additional companies. Now I'll walk through the competitive landscape. There are three main players. First, traditional staffing agencies. They focus on quick placement, mostly general labor, and not long-term trained pipelines. Second, workforce intermediaries like Europe. They provide training and structure, but they're often national, so they're less connected to local needs. Third, direct hiring, which is the status quo. Employers recruit on their own, but struggle to find trained entry-level workers. So overall, there's a clear gap between training, placement, and local demand. Build Up directly addresses that gap. First, it creates a local postgraduate pipeline, connecting students to real jobs in their community. Second, students complete multiple internships, so they graduate with hands-on learning experience. Third, the model is mission aligned, with a clear path to full-time employment. Another huge advantage is that BuildUp creates a supply of reliable workers, allowing them to save on employee search costs and reduce the unpredictability of new hires. So instead of just placing workers, BuildUp builds a reliable long-term system. Here, we've estimated the potential revenue from our venture idea with three scenarios in mind. To calculate each scenario, we took into account a few assumptions. To start, we calculated a baseline $17 an hour based on the average starting wage across positions in construction, warehouse work, clerical work, and plumbing. We also assumed across our estimates that graduates would be able to work 30 hours a week and 26 weeks in the year. And to estimate these three scenarios specifically, we applied a markup to the worker's hourly wage, which reflect how staffing agencies make their revenue. For our conservative estimate, we assumed a 25% markup. For the realistic estimate, we assumed a 35% markup. And for our optimistic estimate, we assumed a 50% markup. Now, looking at profit utilizing our realistic revenue estimate, total costs for the subsidiary development are around 44,000, which is also our ask to fund this venture. This accounts for the process of registering an LLC, which is around profits of $188,050.
So I really want to thank this group because it has been pivotal in advancing our mission to equip and empower young people to have self-determination in their own lives, because it's taken one of our major programmatic costs in providing internships and employment pathways for young people and actually turned it into a revenue stream. Now that we can actually serve our young people and monetize that, it will allow us to actually generate more connections and more revenue to make sure that we are producing more students just like Euphrates. Not only that, but it also allows us to meet local hiring demand in a more unique and dynamic way and provide a much greater safety net for our students who are graduates who haven't fulfilled employment needs yet. So on both sides, for employers and for us as the organization, it will allow us to expand our impact and have a greater touch and produce more students like you see in the picture.